Tracy Chapman disappeared from the industry. Now she finally speaks out. What if I told you one of the most powerful women in music disappeared, not because she failed, but because she chose to walk away? And still defeated the entire industry. Tracy Chapman went from global icon to total silence, rejected fame, sued a superstar, broke country music records, and returned to the Grammys as a legend the world could no longer ignore. This isn't just a comeback, it's a revolution. So why did she vanish? And why is she finally speaking out now? Stay to the end because this story will change how you see the music industry forever. Like, subscribe, and let's dive in. Legends of Black Excellence, the meteoric rise, and the industry's first shock. Before Tracy Chapman became a household name, the music world was dominated by flashy performances, commercial pop formulas, and artists who played by industry rules. But in 1988, everything changed when a soft-spoken black woman with an acoustic guitar released her self-titled debut album under Elektra Records. At first, the label didn't fully believe in her. Executives expected modest sales, maybe 200,000 copies at most. Yet within months, that risky folk album sold more than 6 million copies in the US, and over 20 million worldwide, something no one in the industry could have predicted. Suddenly, the quiet singer from Cleveland became the face of authentic storytelling and social awareness. MTV, which rarely showcased acoustic black artists, was forced to feature her performances because the public demanded it. Tracy's success wasn't just a breakthrough, it was a disruption to how music business operated, and the industry immediately took notice. Her rise to fame hit a defining moment at the Nelson Mandela 70th birthday tribute concert in London. Scheduled as a filler act, she was only there in case of timing issues. But when Stevie Wonder encountered technical problems, producers scrambled and pushed Tracy onto the stage. Standing alone with her guitar in front of 72,000 people in Wembley Stadium and 600 million viewers watching live, she performed Fast Car with raw emotion. The world stopped. That unplanned performance catapulted her album up the charts overnight and earned her 6 Grammy nominations and 3 wins, including Best New Artist. Yet behind this triumph, the industry was already planning how to mold her into a marketable star. Media tours, talk shows, photo shoots, industry events. They wanted her to smile, perform, and promote like everyone else. What they didn't expect was that Tracy Chapman had no intention of becoming their puppet. Instead of embracing the spotlight, she backed away from it. While most newcomers would ride the wave of fame, Tracy resisted the machine. She refused to be packaged. She skipped parties, declined celebrity interviews, and kept her personal life hidden. Elektra Records struggled to understand her. MTV wanted more appearances, more performances, more access. But Tracy remained guarded. Producers tried subtle pressure first, suggesting image changes, encouraging her to connect with executives, pushing for a radio-friendly sound. But each time she pushed back. She cared more about message than marketing, more about artistic truth than chart placement. It wasn't shyness, it was strategy. She realized early that once the industry owns your image, you never get it back. Her quiet rebellion made record labels nervous. The entertainment machine wasn't used to artists who refused to play the game, especially one making them millions. This tension marked the beginning of her long conflict with the music industry. They saw her honesty as a threat to their formula. She proved you could sell records without selling your soul, and that terrified them. When she slowed down touring to protect her mental health, executives labeled her difficult. When she rejected promotional demands, they called her uncooperative. But Tracy understood something the industry didn't. True power comes from creating on your own terms. Her success revealed the first major crack in the entertainment system, a system that expected obedience in exchange for fame. Instead, she built boundaries and forced them to respect her art, even if they resented her control. Tracy Chapman's rise wasn't just a musical breakthrough, it was a revolution. She didn't just become famous, she challenged the entire structure of the business, and the battle between authenticity and the machine had officially begun. The Mandela concert that changed everything. The moment that changed music history didn't start with a spotlight. It started with a problem. On June 11, 1988, the Nelson Mandela 70th birthday tribute concert at Wembley Stadium was one of the largest political and musical events in the world. The stage was packed with megastars, the atmosphere was electric, and over 72,000 fans filled the stadium, while 600 million viewers in 67 countries tuned in from their homes. Tracy Chapman, a relatively unknown artist at the time, was scheduled only as a backup in case of delays. She waited quietly in the wings, clutching her guitar while legends prepared to perform. One of those legends was Stevie Wonder, whose set was highly anticipated. But when his synthesizers malfunctioned, panic broke out backstage. With millions watching live and no time to waste, producers needed someone who could perform instantly with no backup band or complex equipment. There was only one name they could call. Tracy was ushered onto the stage with almost no warning. No special effects, no dancers, no grand introduction, just a stool, a microphone, and an acoustic guitar. The audience expected filler, but what they got was a cultural earthquake. She began singing Fast Car, and her voice cut through the stadium with haunting clarity. There were no distractions, only lyrics about poverty, escape, and hope. Within seconds, 72,000 people fell silent. It didn't feel like a performance. It felt like a confession. Around the world, living rooms went quiet. Viewers leaned forward. The raw honesty of her delivery stunned even the event organizers. This wasn't spectacle. This was truth. As she finished, the crowd erupted in applause that shook the stadium. In that moment, everyone watching knew they had witnessed something historic. Stevie Wonder eventually returned to perform, but the world was already talking about the unknown woman who stole the show. Radio stations immediately replayed her performance. Record stores reported a massive spike in demand for her album within 24 hours. The concert was never meant to make her a star, but it did. Fast Car soared up the charts, becoming a top 10 hit in multiple countries and reaching number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100. Tracy's debut album shot to multi-platinum status globally, and soon she was nominated for 6 Grammy Awards. Even industry veterans admitted they hadn't seen anything like it. What made her performance so powerful wasn't just her voice, it was her courage to stand still in an era obsessed with glamour. While other artists relied on big stages and big personalities, Tracy reminded the world that authenticity could be louder than fireworks. But this single accidental moment did more than launch a career, it shifted the entire direction of popular music. It proved that a song with no synthesizers, no massive production, and no industry polish could captivate the world. It also exposed how the music machine underestimated genuine emotion. Fans didn't just love Tracy, they trusted her. The Wembley performance became a blueprint for vulnerability in music, inspiring future generations of singer-songwriters. Even years later, critics still call it one of the greatest live performances ever broadcast. And perhaps most remarkably, Tracy did all of this without begging for the spotlight. She didn't chase fame, it found her. In front of 600 million people, she didn't just perform a song. She changed what music could be. That day, the world met Tracy Chapman, and the industry would never be the same again. Fame without submission. Tracy refuses the machine. After her breathtaking breakthrough, the music industry expected Tracy Chapman to become the perfect commercial artist present at every award show, smiling on every magazine cover, and promoting herself non-stop. Record executives were thrilled with the profits from her debut album, which surpassed 20 million sales worldwide, but they wanted more. They pushed her to build a brand, expand her image, and fit the mold of a mainstream star. However, Tracy was never interested in becoming a celebrity mascot. Instead of embracing fame, she treated success like a tool, not a destination. While other artists chased publicity, Tracy focused solely on her art. She performed, selectively avoided red carpets, and skipped industry networking events. Her quiet resistance baffled label executives who relied on star power to drive revenue. They couldn't understand how someone so successful refused the spotlight that most artists fought to reach. Record labels attempted every strategy to pull her deeper into the commercial cycle. They offered high-paying endorsements, scripted media appearances, and collaborations with chart-topping artists. Tracy rejected nearly all of it. She refused to wear designer outfits for photo shoots, declined television talk shows, and turned down opportunities that felt exploitative. When asked personal questions in interviews, she redirected the conversation to social issues or her music. Executives labeled her difficult, but in reality she was simply setting boundaries. She valued privacy more than popularity and purpose over profit. This refusal to play the fame game disrupted the industry's formula. They were accustomed to artists who needed their approval to stay relevant. Tracy was different. Her music spoke louder than any marketing campaign. And so while the industry got richer from her success, it also grew increasingly frustrated with her independence. Her second album, Crossroads, proved her debut was not luck. It went platinum and earned critical praise, yet Tracy still refused to chase trends. She didn't alter her sound to fit radio demands. She didn't hire stylists to make her more marketable. Instead, she wrote about human pain, inequality, and emotional truth. While the industry was obsessed with glamour and image, she stayed grounded and real. This made her a symbol of integrity to fans, but a problem for executives. The more control she maintained over her career, the less power the industry had over her. Tracy understood something most artists overlook. Fame is a trap disguised as an opportunity. Once you surrender your voice to the machine, it never gives it back. She chose ownership over exposure, even if it meant losing some promotional benefits. And that choice would shape the rest of her legacy. By silently refusing to conform, Tracy Chapman exposed the music industry's deepest insecurity. The system cannot control true authenticity. She proved that artists could succeed without selling every piece of themselves. Her decisions forced executives to confront an uncomfortable truth. Real artistry doesn't need manipulation to thrive. Rather than becoming a puppet of the entertainment establishment, she became a threat to it. Her independence made her unpredictable, and her refusal to engage in fame culture weakened their influence. Tracy didn't just resist the machine, she redefined the terms of success. While others chased attention, she chose dignity. While the industry tried to shrink her into a brand, she expanded into a legend. In a world obsessed with visibility, Tracy Chapman became powerful by disappearing from the noise and letting her music speak for itself. And that defiance changed everything. Disappear, reappear. The art of total control. At the height of her success, Tracy Chapman did something most artists are terrified to do. She stepped away on purpose. While the industry expected constant content, non-stop tours, and a steady stream of interviews, she chose silence whenever she needed it. She wasn't burnt out or forgotten. She was intentional. After each album cycle, she withdrew completely from public view, recharging and creating on her own terms. Years would pass with no appearances, no press, and no explanations. Fans wondered where she'd gone, but Tracy was never missing. She was simply protecting her art. She believed music should come from truth, not deadlines. This approach baffled record labels who thrived on predictable schedules and maximum exposure. But Tracy refused to let the industry dictate her rhythm. She performed only when inspired and released music only when it felt necessary. In a business built on pressure, she chose peace, and it became her power. Her disappearing acts weren't laziness, they were a radical form of control. Tracy owned her master recordings, negotiated creative freedom in her contracts, and made sure her voice was never manipulated. While other artists were trapped in deals that demanded radio hits and commercial singles, she retained the authority to produce deeply personal albums without compromise. She never released filler tracks to stay relevant. Instead, every project had intention and depth. She didn't chase trends, genres, or collaborations for attention. When MTV evolved into pop spectacle, she stayed rooted in acoustic storytelling. When the industry shifted to image-driven marketing, she remained mysterious and private. Even promoters admitted she was one of the few major musicians who could vanish for years and still sell out tours when she returned. Her absence didn't make people forget her, it made them crave her more. This pattern of reappearing only on her own terms made her both unpredictable and untouchable. The music machine couldn't time her releases or build hype around her because she rejected every system they used to control artists. Her albums came every 3 to 5 years, sometimes longer, often without promotional buildup. She would re-emerge with a body of work that spoke for itself, collect awards or critical acclaim, then fade away again. No scandals, no publicity stunts, just pure artistry. Her silence became just as impactful as her music. Each return felt monumental because Tracy was not overexposed. She was rare. In an era when artists were expected to stay visible or disappear forever, she proved that mystery could be more powerful than constant visibility. She preserved her voice by refusing to let the world exhaust it. Ultimately, Tracy Chapman redefined what success looks like. She showed that freedom is not given, it's taken. She didn't allow herself to become a product of the industry. She became a master of timing, using both presence and absence as tools. While many artists lost themselves trying to stay famous, Tracy stayed whole by walking away when necessary. She built a career without surrendering her soul, a legacy without sacrificing her identity. Her choice to disappear wasn't a retreat. It was a declaration: I belong to the music, not the machine. And decades later, that decision allowed her to return stronger, respected, and still in control. Tracy Chapman didn't just survive the industry, she outsmarted it. Her ability to vanish and reappear whenever she chose wasn't weakness. It was the ultimate expression of creative freedom. The Secret Romance with Alice Walker. That rocked culture. At the peak of her fame, Tracy Chapman shocked the cultural world not with a scandal, but with silence, and then with one of the most unexpected relationships of the 1990s. Tracy, known for fiercely guarding her privacy, entered a romantic partnership with Alice Walker, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author of The Color Purple. Walker was 20 years older, a bold political figure, and unafraid of controversy. Their relationship became a quiet storm in literary and music circles, two influential black women, both openly progressive, both groundbreaking in their fields. Yet while Walker was comfortable with public attention, Tracy remained almost invisible. She never confirmed or denied the relationship publicly, avoiding interviews that probed into her personal life. Industry insiders were desperate to capitalize on this high-profile pairing, seeing it as a marketing goldmine. But Tracy refused to let her love life become a publicity tool. The media tried to dig for drama, but she gave them nothing. No quotes, no photos, no gossip. This silence made their relationship even more mysterious and even more legendary. What made this relationship so culturally explosive wasn't just that it involved two iconic women, it was the tension between their public personas. Alice Walker spoke openly about love politics, queerness, and spirituality. She thrived in the spotlight. Tracy was the opposite: grounded, private, emotionally guarded. Their connection challenged society's expectations of how famous women should behave. For a brief moment, they became one of the most intellectually powerful and culturally significant couples in Black history. But behind the scenes, their differences in lifestyle and visibility reportedly created strain. Their relationship lasted around 2 years before quietly ending. Unlike most celebrity breakups, there was no media circus, no public statement, and no finger-pointing. Yet the industry closely watched the split, hoping it would destabilize Tracy. Instead, it only made her more determined to protect her autonomy. She refused to allow the world to define her through romance, even when that romance involved one of the most famous writers of the era. The shock didn't end there. After the breakup, controversy resurfaced, but from an unexpected place. Rebecca Walker. Alice Walker's daughter became involved in a legal dispute with Tracy over a failed business investment in a Brooklyn cyber cafe. The lawsuit brought financial conflict into public view, creating tension between two women who had once been like family. Industry executives thought this was finally the leverage they needed. They believed emotional turmoil would force Tracy to rely on the entertainment system for support. They waited for vulnerability they could exploit. But Tracy handled it quietly, privately, and with complete composure. She didn't do interviews. She didn't retaliate publicly. She resolved the situation with dignity, then disappeared again. Instead of being broken by personal drama, she became even more unreachable. Her silence became her shield, making it nearly impossible for the media to control the narrative. This entire chapter revealed something powerful. Tracy Chapman's greatest strength wasn't just her music, it was her emotional independence. Most celebrities crumble under public relationship pressure, but Tracy transformed pain into protection. Her connection with Alice Walker challenged cultural norms about love, identity, and privacy. It proved that she could exist in the spotlight without surrendering her soul. Even with media frenzy, legal disputes, and the entertainment machine circling like sharks, they never found a way to manipulate her. She would not be commodified through romance scandal or heartbreak. Instead of being defined by the relationship, she evolved beyond it. And in doing so, she sent a message to the entire industry. You cannot control what you cannot access. The world expected Tracy Chapman to be consumed by the spotlight. Instead, she rewrote the rules, turning the most dramatic relationship of her life into another victory for her freedom. The industry's revenge. Erasing Tracy Chapman. After Tracy Chapman refused to submit to the entertainment machine, the industry quietly began its most powerful form of retaliation, not by attacking her publicly, but by slowly erasing her. At first, it was subtle. Radio stations that once played Fast Car and Talking About a Revolution daily started reducing airplay, claiming her music no longer fit modern formats. Music journalists who once praised her artistry stopped writing features about her, preferring younger, more media-friendly artists. Streaming platforms buried her songs deep in playlists, making it harder for new listeners to discover her. This wasn't accidental. It was strategic. The system couldn't control her, so instead, it tried to make her irrelevant. Tracy wasn't scandalous, she wasn't messy, and she didn't cause drama. But in an industry built on constant visibility, silence became a weapon used against her. Rather than celebrating her integrity, gatekeepers punished her for not playing the fame game. Major media outlets adopted a new narrative. Tracy Chapman was outdated, retired, or no longer culturally important. This was deeply ironic, considering her music continued to influence singer-songwriters across generations. But because she refused to give interviews or feed tabloids, the industry labeled her difficult and uncooperative. Radio programmers began prioritizing artists who engaged in social media and viral marketing, things Tracy openly rejected. Streaming services pushed algorithm-friendly pop while burying artists who didn't generate constant content. Chapman's catalog still resonated with fans, but without corporate support, her visibility plummeted. Music journalism, now driven by clicks and exclusives, ignored her because she didn't offer access. The message was clear. If you don't let us profit from your image, we will make the world forget you. But Tracy had anticipated this. She owned her masters, controlled her publishing, and protected her legacy without begging anyone for attention. One of the most damaging blows came from a newer part of the music landscape: sampling. In hip-hop and R&B, sampling older songs is a path to cultural immortality. Being sampled means your work lives in new generations. But Tracy Chapman had a strict no-sampling policy. It wasn't about money. She wanted to protect the meaning and integrity of her songs. However, to the industry, this made her radioactive. Artists avoided asking for permission because they knew she would say no. Producers stopped referencing her work, and labels discouraged collaborations. As a result, Tracy was left out of an entire cultural movement where legends like Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin, and Nina Simone were constantly being reintroduced through samples. The industry even created an unofficial do not sample list, and Tracy's name sat at the top. By defending her songs, she unintentionally isolated herself from the most powerful form of modern musical relevance. Yet even as the industry tried to erase her, Tracy Chapman's influence refused to die. Her storytelling shaped contemporary folk and conscious pop. Her independence inspired countless artists who felt trapped by commercial expectations. Fans continued to buy her albums even without promotion. But the punishment was real decades of reduced airplay, lack of media coverage, and near invisibility in mainstream culture. The machine thought silence would destroy her, but Tracy had built her career on silence. They believed excluding her would weaken her, but it only strengthened her legacy of authenticity. She became proof that you can walk away and still matter. And when the world finally remembered her through legal victories and a shocking country music comeback, it exposed how hard the industry had tried to bury her. The truth was undeniable. Tracy Chapman was never forgotten by the people. She was only hidden by the system. The Nicki Minaj lawsuit that shook the music world. For years, Tracy Chapman's no sampling policy made her a rare figure in modern music, untouchable, respected, and impossible to exploit. But in 2018, the industry tried to test her boundaries on the biggest stage yet. Rap superstar Nicki Minaj wanted to sample Tracy's 1988 ballad, Baby Can I Hold You, for a new track called Sorry, featuring Nas, one of hip-hop's most respected lyricists. Minaj's team repeatedly reached out for permission, but Tracy refused every time. She wasn't motivated by money or clout. She simply believed her songs should not be altered without meaning. Instead of accepting, no, Minaj recorded the track anyway. Her team assumed that if the song generated enough hype, Chapman would eventually agree. They thought she'd bend under pressure. They were wrong. What happened next turned a simple sampling request into a legal earthquake that forced the entire music industry to rethink how it operated. Unable to release the song commercially due to Tracy's refusal, Minaj's team attempted a different strategy: leak it. On August 10, 2018, legendary New York DJ Funkmaster Flex premiered Sorry on Hot 97, one of the most influential hip-hop radio stations in America. Within hours, the track spread online like wildfire, shared across blogs, radio stations, and social media. The leak was deliberate. The goal was clear, use public momentum to pressure Tracy into granting permission after the fact. But Chapman was no ordinary artist. She immediately took legal action, filing a copyright infringement lawsuit. The industry watched closely, assuming Minaj would win. After all, unauthorized demos are common behind the scenes. Many insiders believed Tracy was outdated and wouldn't fight a major pop star. They underestimated her. This was no longer about one song, it was about whether an artist had the right to control their work in the streaming era. In 2020, the case reached Judge Virginia A. Phillips, who made a surprising split decision. She ruled that Minaj's act of recording the demo was fair use because artists are allowed to experiment privately. The industry celebrated, claiming victory. But it was premature. Tracy's legal team anticipated this and focused on the real violation: distribution. The moment Sorry was played on the radio and leaked online, it became public exploitation, not creative experimentation. That crossed the legal line. The court determined that Minaj's team had indeed violated Chapman's rights through unauthorized distribution. Realizing a trial could lead to even larger penalties, Minaj settled the case in January 2021, agreeing to pay $450,000. This was not a small payout. It was a statement. Chapman didn't just defend her catalog. She proved that even the most powerful artists and labels cannot bypass consent. The settlement sent shockwaves through the music world. For decades, the industry acted as if legends like Tracy Chapman were powerless to enforce their boundaries. Now, every label, producer, and artist realized the truth: ignoring copyright could cost a fortune. Tracy Chapman's victory set a legal precedent that strengthened artist rights across all genres. It forced major labels to tighten their clearance processes, and even A-list performers could no longer assume they were untouchable. More importantly, Tracy showed the world that protecting artistic integrity isn't old-fashioned, it's revolutionary. She didn't rant on social media or chase headlines. She let the law speak for her. And the law sided with her completely. In a music landscape obsessed with sampling and viral remixes, Tracy Chapman became the symbol of artistic ownership. The industry had tried to silence her. Instead, she rewrote the rules and won. Luke Combs' Fast Car, and a historic country music victory. For decades, country music was dominated by a specific image: white artists, Southern roots, and a rigid industry that rarely acknowledged black songwriters. But in 2023, the genre experienced a historic shift that no one saw coming. Country superstar Luke Combs, at the height of his career, decided to record a heartfelt cover of Fast Car, a song written by Tracy Chapman 35 years earlier. Combs didn't remix it or modernize it. He preserved its soul, proving that great storytelling transcends genre. When the song was released, it exploded across radio and streaming platforms. Within weeks, his version of Fast Car soared to #1 on the Billboard Country Airplay chart, making it one of the biggest hits of the year. But it wasn't just a win for Combs. It opened the door to a moment that would rewrite country music history and redefine who could be credited for shaping the genre's future. When Fast Car hit #1, Tracy Chapman became the first black woman in history to write a song that topped the country charts. Not the first to perform one, but the first to write it. That distinction mattered. It shattered decades of gatekeeping and exposed how many black songwriters had long been excluded from credit in a genre they helped create. While the industry had spent years trying to erase her influence, the public brought her back into the spotlight. Chapman didn't do interviews or social media. She didn't appear in the music video. She didn't even promote the success. Yet the world celebrated her achievement louder than any marketing campaign could. In just 4 months, she reportedly earned over $500,000 in royalties from Combs' cover alone. The song reached #2 on the Billboard Hot 100, proving that Tracy's songwriting was not only timeless, it was more relevant than ever. History had finally caught up with her. The impact was so massive that the Country Music Association (CMA) could no longer ignore what was happening. In November 2023, the CMA awarded Fast Car Song of the Year, officially recognizing Tracy Chapman's genius in a genre that had never embraced her before. This moment was unprecedented. She didn't attend red carpets. She didn't chase Nashville's approval. Yet she accomplished what no black female songwriter had done in the history of the CMAs. It wasn't just an award, it was a cultural reckoning. Country music, which had historically resisted acknowledging black contributions, now had to face the truth. One of its biggest hits of the decade was written by a black woman who had been ignored by the system. Critics, artists, and fans praised Chapman not only as a songwriter, but as a trailblazer who broke barriers without even trying to play the game. Then came the most emotional moment of all. At the 2024 Grammy Awards, after more than a decade away from live television, Tracy Chapman stepped on stage to perform Fast Car alongside Luke Combs. The arena fell silent as she began to sing, her voice as powerful as ever. The audience, filled with the most influential musicians in the world, rose to their feet in a standing ovation that lasted over a minute. It was more than applause. It was recognition, justice, and redemption. The industry that once tried to bury her was now honoring her as a legend. Tracy didn't chase fame. She outlasted it. She proved that authenticity has no expiration date, and that a great song can break every boundary, time, race, genre, and industry politics. Her victory in country music was not just a chart achievement. It was a rewriting of history, and it showed the world that sometimes the quietest voices create the loudest legacy. The triumphant Grammy comeback. After a decade of silence. For more than a decade, Tracy Chapman remained almost completely out of the public eye. She gave no concerts, avoided interviews, and rarely appeared at award shows. Many fans wondered if she would ever perform again. But in February 2024, at 60 years old, she made a stunning return to the global stage, the 66th Annual Grammy Awards. What made the moment even more powerful was the context. Her song Fast Car, released back in 1988, had just re-entered the cultural spotlight thanks to Luke Combs' chart-topping country cover. Rather than sending a pre-recorded message or declining the invitation as many expected, Tracy agreed to perform. No flashy announcement, no media build-up, She simply walked onto the stage, guitar in hand, and the audience froze. The woman the industry tried to erase was back, and she was about to remind the world why her music still lives in people's hearts. Luke Combs, fully aware of the significance of the moment, joined her on stage for a duet of Fast Car. He looked humbled, even nervous, standing beside the original creator of the song that revived his career. The performance began with Tracy alone gently strumming the iconic opening riff. The arena, normally filled with cameras clicking and people whispering, fell silent. It felt like time stopped. When she started singing, her voice was clear, controlled, and emotionally rich, as if no time had passed at all. Luke joined in on the second verse, harmonizing with deep respect instead of trying to overshadow her. The chemistry was natural, effortless. Two artists from completely different generations and genres united by a single timeless song. It wasn't a performance, it was a cultural moment. And it was clear who the world was really there to see. As the final chorus played, the camera panned across the audience. Famous singers, producers, legends, and newcomers, all visibly emotional. Some mouthed the lyrics, others wiped away tears. When the song ended, something rare happened in a room full of industry elites. The entire audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation that lasted over a minute. This wasn't polite applause. It was reverence. Beyoncé stood. Taylor Swift stood. Veterans and newcomers alike honored a woman who had reshaped music without ever chasing the spotlight. For years, Tracy had been ignored by radio, buried by streaming algorithms, and dismissed by executives. Yet in this moment, every barrier collapsed. She didn't need choreography, special effects, or auto-tune. Her presence alone commanded the room. She was the definition of authenticity, and everyone felt it. The next day, headlines around the world didn't just celebrate the performance, they called it the highlight of the entire Grammys. Social media exploded with praise. Younger generations who had never seen her perform live were stunned. Critics wrote that she stole the show without trying. Her music surged on streaming platforms, with Fast Car jumping back onto the charts. But most importantly, the industry was forced to confront a painful truth. The woman they tried to silence had returned more powerful than ever. Tracy Chapman didn't beg for relevance. She earned eternal respect by staying true to herself. Her Grammy comeback wasn't just a performance, it was a moment of collective awakening. In a world obsessed with trends, she proved that real artistry doesn't fade. It waits patiently. And when it finally returns, the whole world stands up to listen. How Tracy Chapman beat the system and won everything. Tracy Chapman's journey is more than the story of a successful musician. It is the blueprint of resistance in an industry built on control. While most artists surrender their image, sound, and privacy to survive, Tracy did the opposite. She protected her voice, owned her work, and refused to become a product. She never needed viral trends, scandal-driven headlines, or constant exposure. Instead, she relied on pure storytelling, emotional truth, and integrity. Her music spoke to working-class struggles, love, injustice, and hope without ever compromising its message. Even when labels tried to push her into a commercial box, she broke out of it every time. By stepping back from fame at will, she proved that visibility does not equal power control does. Tracy Chapman redefined what it means to be an artist. She didn't just survive without the system. She outsmarted it, and ultimately forced it to bend to her. One of the defining moments of her legacy came through a battle she never sought but chose to finish. When Nicki Minaj, one of the biggest names in modern music, tried to use Tracy's work without permission, many believed Chapman would stay silent. Instead, she stood her ground against a global superstar backed by major labels and powerful lawyers. The lawsuit wasn't about ego or money, it was about principle. Tracy defended the right of an artist to control their own creations, something the industry often pretends doesn't matter. And she won. The $450,000 settlement didn't just compensate her, it permanently shifted the legal landscape of sampling. Chapman proved that artistic boundaries are not outdated, they are essential. Her willingness to confront Minaj, someone at the peak of modern fame, showed a courage rare in the industry. She proved you can be quiet, but never weak. You can disappear from the spotlight and still hold immense power. In the end, the very system that tried to silence her was forced to celebrate her. Streaming platforms resurrected her catalog. Critics who once overlooked her now call her one of the greatest songwriters of all time. Younger artists cite her as an influence in genres ranging from folk to hip-hop. Universities teach her lyrics as social commentary. And then came the ultimate irony: the same industry that previously buried her music now showers her with awards, tributes, and lifetime achievements. Country music, one of the most exclusive spaces in entertainment, crowned her with Song of the Year at the CMA Awards. The Grammys invited her back as a legend. Fans across generations rediscovered her, proving that authenticity never expires. Tracy didn't change to fit the times. The times finally caught up to her. Today, Tracy Chapman stands as living proof that artistic independence is not just possible, it is more powerful than the industry ever wanted us to believe. She won every battle without screaming, without playing politics, and without sacrificing her soul. She inspired a new era where artists demand ownership, mental health, and creative control. Her influence stretches beyond music. It has reshaped conversations about privacy, integrity, and the right to say no. Tracy Chapman's greatest legacy is not just her songs. It is the fact that she conquered the entertainment machine by refusing to be owned by it. Nicki Minaj's case showed she could defeat the biggest names. Luke Combs' cover showed her music could transcend generations. And the world's standing ovations showed she had already earned immortality. In the end, Tracy Chapman didn't just escape the system, she made it bow down. Tracy Chapman proved that true power isn't in fame, but in freedom. She walked away from the machine, won a legal battle against one of the biggest stars in hip-hop, and returned to the Grammy stage as a living legend. Her music broke barriers in country, inspired generations, and forced the industry to respect authenticity over image. She didn't scream to be heard, she stayed silent until the world finally listened. But here's the real question. Did Tracy Chapman win because she rejected the industry, or because she mastered it better than anyone else? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Legends of Black Excellence.